In the most ambitious crossover event of the year, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ted Cruz might be working together on a new plan to stop former members of Congress from becoming lobbyists ever. And so this is obviously weird. We don't normally do this sort of coverage of them working together. So let's walk you through how we got here. AOC, as she often does, did a tweet thread about an important issue going into great detail. And she said, if you're a member of Congress and leave, you shouldn't be allowed to turn right around and leverage your service for a lobbyist check. I don't think it should be legal at all to become a corporate lobbyist if you've served in Congress. At minimum, there should be a long wait period. Keeping it real, the elephant in the room with passing a lobbying ban on members requires a nearly impossible discussion about congressional pay. It is understandably unpopular to discuss giving Congress any raises or perks, and because of that, there's incentive to keep money loopholes open. And she gives a few examples, I'll read just one. For example, members of Congress have strict restrictions that most of the public don't have. One case, because of our jobs, we have to have 2 residences and pay for it out of pocket, but we're banned from writing it off as a work expense. Boo-hoo, right? Well, that incentivizes loopholes. And so she had tweeted a little bit more, but that was enough. For Ted Cruz to tweet this, here's something I don't often say. On this point, I agree with AOC. Indeed, I have long called for a lifetime ban on former members of Congress becoming lobbyists. The swamp would hate it, but perhaps a chance for some bipartisan cooperation. And AOC, she likes the sound of this, but she also knows that Ted Cruz is a literal snake in human form, or roughly human form. So she said, Ted Cruz, if you're serious about a clean bill, then I'm down. Let's make a deal. If we can agree on a bill with no partisan stuck-in clauses, no poison pills, etc., just a straight clean ban on members of Congress becoming paid lobbyists, then I'll co-lead the bill with you. To which he responded, you're on.
Wow. Okay, so I would like to remind everybody, she is a freshman congresswoman, 29 years old. Now, why haven't the so-called senior leaders among Democrats ever proposed anything like this? It turns out if you try, you might actually get some Republicans to vote with you. Think about it on several different issues. And then I remember when she was running, and this is in the movie Knock Down the House, which you can see on Netflix, about her run and other Just Democrats run. People said to her and Cori Bush and others, well, we got a senior member of Congress. Joe Crowley is the number 4 Democrat in the House, so I don't know if we should give up that power. What power? And when did Joe Crowley or any of those other Democratic incumbents that have been sitting there for decades ever use that power for you? No, they use it for their donors, right? Instead, you get someone who represents you, and look at this. She fights for you, and she fights against corruption. And all of a sudden, it turns out if you try, which none of those older incumbents are doing, almost none, well, it turns out you might actually get it passed. And this is not new. Bernie Sanders has the best track record in the Senate of any Democrat of getting Republicans to work with him on amendments that he puts into bills. Now, why is that? Because he actually comes at it from an uncorrupted point of view, and he says to some portion of the right wing, hey, you know how you're always talking about you're against the swamp, etc.? Well, either you're gonna be exposed as a hypocrite or peel off and vote with me. And sometimes they do actually peel off and vote with him. And so that's why he winds up getting amendments in. If you're a normal establishment Democrat and you're like, okay, now I'd like to help my donors instead of your donors, they're like, yeah, no deal. So that's why they never get anything done.
So we always talk about, you said the older established Democrats they have worked with Republicans across lines. And this is what always frustrated me about it is every time they do, they're doing it on the terms of those other establishment Republicans. So like, 100%. Yeah, we worked across the aisle. And we're like, man, you worked with them on something they've been telling you they want. Well, what kind of working is that? So when everyone's just on one side, instead of, there's reason for bipartisanship is because both sides actually want it. Rather than, well, I want to have a couple of bills under my belt so I can campaign on being bipartisan by jumping across the aisle and doing everything they want to do. So in doing that, I also like how we talked about Elizabeth Warren earlier. She's putting bills for people have to learn about what's happening through a bill that's they're trying to make become a law, but without just criticizing someone. So even while AOC has done this and said that she's gonna work with Ted Cruz, without saying, hey, Ted Cruz, you're part of that swamp. You're one of the creatures that likes to throw in poison pills and do things sneaking under the table, because I know we all know this, but a lot of people don't know that's how it works. Tons of people don't know how that's how it works. But say it in a way where, hey, as long as you guys don't, she didn't say, do what you usually do or try and screw this whole thing over, just says, yeah, let's not put those things in and you have a deal. So make sure you have that clause is there. Other old school establishment Democrats wouldn't say anything like that because they would do it too.
They would put in a poison pill too, exactly right. Because they're like, hey, I want to go work as a lobbyist after somebody like AOC beats me. Which, by the way, guess what Joe Crowley's doing? Working as a lobbyist. including, yeah, sorry. 60% of former members of Congress are now lobbyists. 60%. They're looking for, because you know why? It's a huge paycheck. That's why she's like, look, if you actually increase the salary of Congress, it wouldn't be as much of an incentive to go sell out. I would do that in a second. People are always like over obsessed with like, oh no, politicians are getting paid too much. Or in public financing of elections, oh, well, we're supposed to pay for the politicians to run for office. If you don't, then Sheldon Adelson does and the Koch brothers do it. If you're a right winger, George Soros does. And then they work for them and not us. And they give them trillions of dollars. That's much more expensive.
I get what you're saying. I think mainly what the money they're being given is for their campaigns, which even if they had millions more dollars, they wouldn't want to self-fund. And the thing is, a lot of these congressmen, let alone the senators, are millionaires. Like they're not struggling like AOC to get by. I'm not saying that she's wrong, and perhaps changing some of those loopholes and stuff is important, but a lot of them have some money. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this. Maybe Ted Cruz, like he's occasionally pissed off his own party in the past. He's been willing to do that. But I mean, the same guy who's like running and begging Sheldon Adelson or whoever for money during the last election, that like, I don't know how authentic. Like he doesn't want to become a lobbyist after he gets, eventually booted out of his spot in the Senate in Texas.
I don't care.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, try for it. And there are others. Michael Bennet, who's running for president, he's in support of this. There are other senators and congressmen, both on the Republican and Democratic side. I just don't know for sure that Ted Cruz would go the full way.
Yeah, and I want to be super clear. I ain't raising no congressman's salary or senator's salary unless they say we're gonna ban all of them from being lobbyists, okay? We're not gonna just raise it randomly, hell no, right? And so finally, so should you be for bipartisanship or not? Understand that question makes no sense, okay? But the mainstream media, they don't have to make sense. They're always like, oh, bipartisanship is great, bipartisanship. Well, what are we working on, brother? Doesn't that matter? So to JR's point, if you say, hey, it's great when Democrats vote with the Republicans for the Iraq war, I say, no, not so great. Oh, it's great when they work together to get pass the tax cuts, which they did under George W. Bush, not under Trump, but they did under Bush. No, not great. That's terrible bipartisanship. Both sides want to cut Social Security. Terrible bipartisanship, right? But if you're working together to make sure that our representatives are less corrupt, take yes for an answer.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, last small number because I know we didn't mention it, but they said at least 187 political appointees in the Trump administration worked as federal lobbyists, and they're also put in positions that supervise the same industries that they were lobbying for. So it's a full revolving door. You're in office, you get booted out, you go work for lobbyists, you come back in and still influence things within the administration. So there's so many incentives to continue this rotation.
Yeah, that can't be true because Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.